Hey now folks, my name is Nick, this is Board Game Brawl, and today we're taking a look at a game that's going to be very controversial for my channel, I'm sure, and divisive, and that is Cards Against Humanity. And if you're into the board gaming world at all, then this game's reputation precedes it. Now, I actually... this is going to be a spoiler because obviously if I have this, then that means I like the game, but I keep the game in the bigger, blacker box, which I'm not going to say what that means. If you are familiar with the game, you know what it's in reference to. But basically, this game is very divisive among the board gaming community because it's a very dirty game. I have found, I haven't been in the board gaming community that long, just over a year, but I have found that there are many people in this community that are very family oriented. There's a lot of religious people, and that's fine. I'm not knocking those people at all, but they hate games like this. There's a few other type of games that straddle that line of going into R-rated, definitely not for family and young people to play. And Cards Against Humanity is like the poster child for that, and a lot of people just hate it and think it's just, and as far as the actual gameplay too, it's a very simplistic game. Essentially, this game ripped off Apples to Apples completely. Apples to Apples is a family card game you can walk into like a Target and buy. Cards Against Humanity you cannot. You can only get Cards Against Humanity from Amazon. It was originally a Kickstarter product, and in fact the name of the company is Cards Against Humanity LLC. I mean, this is the game that they produce. This is it. I don't even know the name of the designers. This is their whole thing. And it's got tons of expansions. The game originally came in a very small box, and all the expansions come in smaller boxes. It's not even worth reviewing the expansions because they're all essentially the same thing, adding more cards into the game. They put out holiday packs. They're in the middle of a holiday promotion now called the 12 Days of Holiday BS. And, well, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to show you the game, and I'm going to tell you right now, in case you're worried about it, if you are not interested in hearing foul language or if you have kids in the room, I am not going to use any of the really bad cards. I'm going to try to not to use any of the foul language ones and still make it funny in order to get the appeal of the game across. Then we'll come back and I'll tell you exactly why I like it. Alright, so I want to stress again that I went to great lengths to make sure there were not any really bad R-rated or X-rated cards in this overview of Cards Against Humanity. Although I would also warn you that if the game is not quite as doesn't seem quite as funny as you've heard that it is, then it's probably because I'm not using those R-rated and X-rated cards. So take it with a grain of salt. Anyways, the actual gameplay of Cards Against Humanity is very, very, very simple. You have two types of cards in the game. You have black cards, which are either questions or fill-in-the-blank statements, and you have white cards, which are words and phrases that you're going to use to fill in the blanks on those black cards or to answer the questions. Everyone at the beginning is going to draw 10 cards from the white deck, and then starting from the first round, each player is going to take turns to decide who goes first, being the judge for the round. The first thing the judge does is draw a black card from the black card deck, and then read that card out loud. Now, at that point, the judge does not actually participate in the rest of the rounds. Instead, every other player takes one of their white cards that they think is the funniest response to that fill-in-the-blank statement or question and places it face down in front of the judge. Once every player has put in the cards that they want the judge to read, then the judge is going to collect those cards, shuffle them all up, and read the black card again, and then read all the white cards aloud, and afterwards decide which of those they think is the best card for that black card. Now, one thing to stress is that just because you think the card that you've chosen is funny and works better in that black card than everyone else's, it doesn't mean that the judge is. So really what you need to do is play to the judge. You want the judge to think that your card is funny, even if you yourself don't think it's funny, or even if the other players wouldn't think it's funny. So the card that you choose the type of card you choose might change depending on which player is actually the judge for the round. So let's actually go ahead and take a look at some of these cards. So for the black cards, just as a few examples, we have cards like, why do I hurt all over? So everyone would try to pick their funniest response to that question. And another thing to stress is that sometimes you want to go for a card that actually makes sense with the question or statement that's being asked. But sometimes you just want to go for something that's ridiculous and goofy and doesn't make any sense because it's just funnier. Before I run for president, I must destroy all evidence of my involvement with blank. Or, but before I kill you, Mr. Bond, I must show you blank. Or forget everything you know about blank because now we've supercharged it with blank. Now this is a pick 2 card. When a judge draws a pick 2 card, each player is going to choose 2 cards for the judge to read. And the order is important. Usually what we do in our game is say that you want, whenever you hand the judge your 2 cards, you'll put the card that you want the judge to read first on the bottom and the other one on top so that the judge just picks up the cards and reads them like that. And it also is kind of a pain because you can't shuffle them together like you would just one card. So you kind of have to make piles and then shuffle those around while the judge's eyes are closed or whatever you think is best for your group. So those are some examples of the different black cards. Now here are the white cards, the responses. We have stuff like poor life choices, attitude, tongue, rehab, the hustle, Adderall, me, hot cheese, a big hoopla about nothing, mutually assured destruction. Now, picture all of this kind of stuff, but with much dirtier words and phrases, because that's typically how this game is going to go. But let's play out a sample round. So going back to the black deck, I'm the judge for the round, and my question is, why do I hurt all over? So you'll place that in front of you. Each player is going to have their hand of cards, and everyone's going to put one in. So let's say I put in that card. Someone else is going to put in another one. Let's say that this is a 4-player game, which is really the minimum amount of players you would want to do for this game. And there we go. Let's just say that those are the 4 games that are from different players. 4 cards. The judge will shuffle up the cards and read them out loud. Why do I hurt all over? Attitude. Why do I hurt all over? Hot cheese. Why do I hurt all over? Tongue. Read into that what you will. And why do I hurt all over? Poor life choices. So as a judge, I have to figure out which one of those I either think is the funniest or that I just like the most for whatever particular reason. And I personally think that tongue is probably the funniest out of those. So at that point, as I said, all of these cards were played and shuffled in secret. No one claims their card as it's read. I will choose a card, and whoever actually played that card will claim it. And when they do, they're going to take the black card that was read as a point. It's actually called awesome points. And there's really no end points to this game. You're just going to keep playing until you set an arbitrary end point, whether it's 5 points, 10 points, or whatever, or until you just get tired of playing the game, which is usually how it ends. And at that point, whoever has the most awesome points is the winner. And of course, there are different variants that you can play with the game that come with the rule book. You can choose to say that there is no judge and that everyone throws in a card and then everyone votes together on what they think the funniest card is. You can say that everyone has the option of dumping their hand if they don't like the stuff that they have, because you always typically draw it back up to your hand size after you've played a card, but if you don't like your cards, you can just dump your hand. There's the awesome rule that we always use is that there is one card in the black deck that just says, make a haiku, and you get to draw 3 cards first, and then you'll effectively play 3 cards. It's draw 2 and play 3, and you'll play 3 cards together that you think are the closest approximation and the funniest type of haiku. Then the judge reads them aloud, or everyone votes on what they think is the funniest. That's how the typical, as the rulebook says, the ceremonial ending of Cards Against Humanity. And that's basically the game. Now, there's nothing highbrow about Cards Against Humanity. Now, in my overview of the gameplay, obviously I use the tame cards, but picture every dirty, nasty word you can think of, every very suggestive phrase and terminology that you can think of. I mean, everything you could possibly think of that would push the boundaries of good taste makes its way into either the base game or all the different expansions. And they've definitely amped it up as the expansions have come out when they realized how much they could just get away with. But honestly, I love it. It's such, I'm honestly to the point where I've got burned down on it because I played it so much, but I'll usually take a break and then play it some more. And I get every expansion as it comes out because I want more and more variety. Although there's so many card combinations that there's always going to be a different game. Now, I said at the beginning of this is essentially an apples to apples ripoff. And I have to tell you, I only played apples to apples for the first time after I had played Cards Against Humanity. And for me, there's no going back. I mean, Apples to Apples was just awful to me because you could make suggestive sort of dirty things out of Apples to Apples, but you had to try really hard. And generally speaking, you're going to be playing that game with people that aren't interested in hearing really dirty things. They just want to have like sort of goofy, lighthearted family fun. And for that purpose, that's fine. I don't have a bad thing to say about Apples to Apples other than I would never go back to playing it after playing this. This is the ultimate adult party game because it's actually smart in a way. You do actually have to think in this game, trying to come up with funny combinations, trying to play to the different judges because the judge is always going to be different every round, and you can't always just play the card that you think is going to be hilarious. You have to play to the judge, and that's a real and genuine tactic. Now, of course, the point of this game is not to win. I think I do pretty well in this game, but I've had some games that I absolutely did awful in, but you know what? I still had fun. That's the point, is that you're just getting together with your friends, or maybe not even your friends, just people that are in your game group who you wouldn't even normally play games with. That's the great thing. I've played this game with people who our actual board gaming preferences are drastically different. Like I'm totally into Ameritrash, and I might never cross paths with someone in the group who likes heavy Euro games, really dry games or abstract games, but I can always get people to play, those kind of people to play Cards Against Humanity. And it's just like, it's a universal thing. I've played it with people who you would never, ever expect would be into, like, you know, having dirty jokes, and maybe they never would tell a dirty joke in their life. But when they have it in this card game format, they're all over it. I've never had a bad experience playing it. I've never had someone like say, "Oh my God, this is horrible," and walk away from the table. It just doesn't happen because, really, honestly, I've been a lover of okay, that sounds bad. I've been an admirer of Howard Stern for many, many years now, and what people don't understand is that the people that like it aren't necessarily, who like, you know, filthy humor like that, aren't necessarily bad people or filthy themselves. It's because deep down, everyone likes a good joke, and there is no boundary to the joke. There, you know, what's funny is funny. You can't judge funny. I mean, what's funny to one person isn't going to be funny to the next person, but you can't go around making judgments on people because they think that a few certain words said a certain way are filthy and not appropriate for certain company, because, you know, it's just, I think we're getting to a point where it's not that playing a game like this makes you immature or playing a much more sophisticated game makes you more mature. It's being able to play a game like this and laugh at it and not take it too seriously that, to me, is a real sign of maturity. And when I hear people complain about the game that it's just like awful, that it's got no moral value, I'm like, whatever. I mean, if you don't like the game because it's got simplistic gameplay just like Apples to Apples, that's fine. But if you think that we should be above that as a board gaming community, I say we're playing board games and card games. There's nothing mature about it. I don't care what you say. If you want to do something mature, go out and solve some mathematical theorem and invent the cure to cancer, and don't waste your time playing games at all. But no, we like to play games. I don't care what it is. If it's fun, I'll play it. And Cards Against Humanity is fun, and it's clever, and I will always be willing to play it with any people that play, as long as they're of age. So what can I say? It's not going to be for everybody, but if you've been holding off just because you think that it's like a dumb party game that's just, nothing intuitive about it, I would say give it another look, because it is clever, it is funny, and there's a reason that it is one of the most popular games right now and one of the best sellers on Amazon, of all places. So, my name is Nick. This is Board Game Brawl, reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way, as filthy as you want it. Take care.